June 15, 1944. Colonel Takashi Agita stood in the pre-dawn darkness on Mount Tepichau, watching the American invasion fleet materialize from the Pacific horizon like a steel curtain drawing closed. He had fought in Manchuria, survived the jungles of Guadalcanal, and he believed he understood war. Oh, below him stretched a Slido airfield, 3 years of labor carved from coral and jungle by Korean conscripts and Japanese engineers. Its single runway represented months of crushing stone, mixing concrete, smoothing volcanic soil. He felt a grim satisfaction knowing the Americans would need similar time to build their own bases, time his garrison would use to bleed them white. In his leather map case lay detailed plans showing construction timelines, supply requirements, the careful mathematics of military engineering. He could not have imagined that within 72 hours those calculations would become evidence of a world order he no longer understood. The Japanese Empire approached warfare as an extension of its feudal soul, meticulous, ritualistic, bound by scarcity. Every nail mattered. Every bag of cement arrived by ship from the home islands, vulnerable to submarine attack, precious as blood. Japanese engineers built with the patience of men who knew resources were finite. On Saipan, construction crews worked 6-month rotations, hand-mixing concrete in small batches, laying foundations with the deliberation of shrine builders. The airfield at Slido represented not just military infrastructure, but a philosophical statement. Victory belonged to those who endured, who sacrificed, who transformed suffering into strength. Speed was an American obsession. The Japanese way was gammon, perseverance through hardship. This mindset permeated every level of Imperial planning. Japanese commanders studied logistics as a zero-sum equation. Fuel shortages dictated strategy. Rice rations determined offensive timelines. When Japanese engineers landed on a captured island, they brought surveyors, draft animals, hand tools, and time, always time, measured in seasons rather than days. Their construction manual specified techniques unchanged since the Meiji Restoration. How to compact soil through repeated rolling, how to cure concrete over weeks of careful watering, how to build with the assumption that resupply might never arrive. This was warfare rooted in scarcity, where every engineering decision reflected the agonizing calculus of a resource-starved empire. The Americans who stormed Saipan's beaches that June morning brought a different religion entirely. Within 6 hours of the first wave landing Navy Seabees, the construction battalions were already ashore, bulldozers roaring through machine gun fire. They did not wait for the island to be secured. They did not establish safe perimeters or conduct careful surveys. They simply built. Bulldozers carved roads through coconut groves while Japanese snipers fired from the trees. Graders leveled coral outcroppings while mortar shells exploded 50 yards away. The Seabees worked in organized chaos, each battalion a self-contained industrial unit carrying everything needed: portable cement mixers, steel matting, gravel crushers, asphalt plants, electrical generators, water purification equipment. They were not support troops, they were factories on legs, and they moved with the urgency of men who believed time itself could be manufactured. On June 18, 3 days after the invasion began, Japanese observers reported something impossible. The Americans were building a bomber runway. Not repairing a Slido, building an entirely new airfield from raw jungle in Coral Beach. Lieutenant Yamada, positioned in a cave overlooking Charon Kanoa, watched through field glasses as the alien spectacle unfolded. Dozens of bulldozers worked in coordinated lines, stripping topsoil like locusts devouring rice fields. Behind them came scrapers, then graders, then fleets of trucks dumping crushed coral. The construction proceeded not in stages, but simultaneously. Earth moving, drainage, foundation work, all happening at once in a choreographed industrial ballet. Yamada wrote in his diary, "They build as if the machines are more numerous than the men, as if the equipment is expendable, as if tomorrow they will simply bring more." He was right. The Americans treated machinery the way samurai once treated arrows, as consumable ammunition in industrial war. When a bulldozer broke down, Seabees abandoned it and commandeered another from the endless supply ships offshore. When Japanese artillery destroyed a cement mixer, 3 more arrived by evening. The construction crews worked in 8-hour rotating shifts, the labor never ceasing, the machines never silent. floodlights turn night into day. By June 22, 1 week after the invasion, the first American aircraft landed on a functioning runway where jungle had stood 7 days earlier. Colonel Higuita, retreating into the island's mountainous interior, received the reports with disbelief bordering on horror. 7 days. His own engineers had needed 6 months. The Americans had compressed what should have been half a year into a single week. But worse lay ahead. By early July, the Seabees had expanded Asleto into a major bomber base, renamed Airfields, complete with parallel runways, taxiways, revetments, fuel storage, and maintenance facilities. They had built in 1 month what Japanese doctrine said required a year. And they had done it while fighting a battle under artillery fire in tropical heat that melted asphalt as fast as it was laid. The secret was not merely machinery, though the Americans brought more equipment than most nations possessed in total. The deeper truth lay in method. Japanese construction followed the master-apprentice tradition, skilled engineers directing unskilled labor in time-tested techniques. American Seabees were plumbers, electricians, heavy equipment operators, carpenters, civilian tradesmen in uniform who knew modern construction in their bones. They did not wait for orders. They improvised, adapted, solved problems with the casual competence of men who had built highways and dams in peacetime. When they needed crushed stone, they didn't ship it from Hawaii. They set up portable rock crushers and manufactured it on site. When they needed concrete, they mixed it from coral sand and seawater, creating makeshift formulas that would have scandalized engineering textbooks but worked perfectly for military deadlines. More profound still was the philosophy embedded in every Seabee action: abundance as doctrine. Japanese engineers hoarded materials, carefully calculating minimum requirements. American Seabees overbuilt everything, using twice the materials needed, finishing ahead of schedule, adding capacity just in case. They constructed not 1 runway, but 3. Not adequate fuel storage, but massive tank farms. Not sufficient repair facilities, but complete aircraft factories. This was not waste. It was the American way of war, where excess capacity itself became a weapon, where the enemies will broke not from what you destroyed, but from what you could endlessly create. From his final command post in the island's northern caves, Colonel Higuita watched BA-29 superfortresses land at Airfields in August. These aircraft, each one larger than any bomber Japan had ever built, would soon carry fire to Tokyo itself, launched from runways bulldozed from jungle in days. The colonel had spent his career studying tactics, strategy, the ancient principles of Bushido. None of it had prepared him for this. An enemy that conquered not through superior fighting spirit, but through superior building speed. The Americans had transformed war from a contest of wills into a problem of industrial engineering. And they had solved it with shocking efficiency. Saipan fell. The airfields expanded. By year's end, 3 massive bomber bases operated where jungle had once reigned, each one built faster than seemed possible. Each one proof that America fought with a different kind of time. The Japanese measured construction in seasons. The Americans measured it in shifts. That difference, more than any battle, decided the Pacific War. War's deepest truths hide not in combat, but in construction rates. The Seabees of Saipan revealed what democracy truly meant when mobilized. Not speeches or ideals, but the raw power to reshape geography itself, to compress months into days, to build faster than the enemy could destroy. The airfields stood long after the shooting stopped, monuments not to victory but to the terrible, unstoppable efficiency of a nation that had industrialized even patience itself. Speed, it turned out, was just abundance accelerated.